Today we're going to hot rod a Stihl 271. Sort of. Well, yeah, kind of. Welcome to Hack a Week. I guess you could call it hot rodding, but it's really not. It's just putting in a bigger engine. On Amazon, I found these replacement engines. Comes in a little teeny box. They're like anywhere between $40 and $70. It's a little kit. It's the top end. It's the piston, cylinder, the rings, the wrist pin, the clips, all that stuff that you need to do just the top end. You reuse the crankshaft. You reuse the bottom of the crankshaft case. So what we need to do is tear this apart, get the engine out, and then we're going to pop it apart. Bottom end is going to get swapped over to the new piston, and we're going to put that into the new cylinder, which is a cylinder and head combination. And what we'll end up with is basically a Stihl 291. 55 cc's versus just a little over 50 cc's for the 271. 271 was 44.7 millimeters diameter on the bore, and the 291 is 47 millimeters, so considerably different. But anyway, rather than just rebuild this one, I thought I'd try one of these motors, see how they work out. Maybe they're okay, maybe they're just junk. I mean, for 60 bucks, what I paid for it, it's worth giving it a try. And of course, it's just good entertainment too. So let's get tearing this thing apart and get the engine out. Then we'll get that on the bench and we'll start swapping things over. 271. I haven't looked up the serial number as far as the year goes, but it's seen some use. It's down to about 75 pounds of compression. It should be well over 100 to be a decent running saw. But anyway, it does not have much power anymore. So it was one of those ones where they just gave up on it and bought a new saw, and it went into the boneyard. So I rescued it from the boneyard, bought it, and here we go. We're going to tear it apart. Anyway, worth rebuilding. It's a good saw. Stihl makes a good product. They're well built. German engineering, all that fun stuff. So, just going to get right at it. What I'm going to do is just let the video run, and later in an edit, what I'll do is get past the bits where I'm taking out 10 screws. It's like, who wants to watch that? So it'll be step by step, but you can kind of stop it along the way if you want to see where things go and what comes apart when. But anyway, enjoy the ride. Here we go. Sideways so I get a better bit of leverage. Yeah, this will break them loose. One of those is a bit longer than the other. Tell me, can you guess which one? Alright, what's still holding us up? It is not loose yet. I thought I had everything, maybe not. Or it just might need a good nudge with a dead blow hammer. Gonna give it a bit of a pry between the case and the engine. Remember, I've got that broken off bolt on the other side. Yeah, that may be what's still kind of holding me up a little. Oh, wait a minute. I guess it doesn't have anything to do with it. There we go. Almost. There's a fuel line here to disconnect, or the other option is to just loosen the screw on the clamp for the intake boot and leave the intake boot, its clamp, and the fuel line and the carburetor mount all behind. Come on, you can get off there. They know you can't. There we go. So now we can lift this up out of here. It's a bit of a lift and twist situation. There we go. And it came apart down below. The rest of it stayed stuck in there because that's the way they're assembled. This looks like it was still factory. So we're going to keep the crankshaft, the connecting rod, and not the piston or anything. The seals, I've got new seals. So next step, clean this all up. Get everything nice and clean. All this yuck out of here. Get it all sanitary again. All the old Durco sealant, that's got to come out. Get that surface nice and pristine and clean. Then we're taking this apart. We're going to salvage the crankshaft, the connecting rod, and that's it. The rest is just junk, and we'll take a look at what's going on inside there as far as the piston and cylinder, how bad it looks. The crankshaft, piston, connecting rod all has to come out of here. We've got a brass hammer. I'm just going to give it a little tap on either side. Pretty much all that's holding it in are the crankshaft seals stuck to the side. Just pull that piston out. Let's take a look at what's going on in there. A little bit of scoring, but not anything too bad. I don't know, maybe just general wear is where it lost compression. Yep. Oh, and maybe a little bit of ring wear. Could be a bit of that. Anyway, cylinder doesn't look too bad. No deep gouges, but it's really, really shiny. And looks like a saw that just pretty much worked hard and got a bit worn out, and here we are. Just lost compression through the rings. Well, there is a little ring clip in here that's got to come out. I don't know if I can get it with a little flat blade. Might have to get in there with a little pokey bit, but anyway, the ring clip comes out. Then we're going to tap that wrist pin out, and all we're going to keep is the crankshaft and the connecting rod, and then put a new piston, rings, cylinder assembly onto this along with the seals. Let's try this with a small screwdriver. That's what this little dimple is for, is to get underneath that thing to be able to pop it out. It's got a new one, so don't really have to worry about it. Just flew up and hit me right in the shirt. There it is. Anyway, don't have to worry about hurting this one. We've got new ones. There's a clip on the other side too, and if I can get that off, it will give me more surface area for a punch on this side to tap this out. So I believe that's enough. Yes, there we go. There's the needle cage that's going to go in there. I think we have a new one of those in the kit. We're going to remove the old seal on that side. And that's about it. Check out the bearings. Bearings feel okay. There's a bit of wear. But, yeah, I think it's worth it. We'll find out. There's another seal on this side. There is a circlip that is here blocking that seal, so you can't just pop it off. You've got to get that circlip off. Take a pair of needle nose pliers and push on the other side. You can pop it right off, and then we can get that seal off. There we go. So this isn't too bad. I mean, the casting looks okay. We'll see how it all goes together. The cylinder looks like it's ready to go. I see hone marks on it. So I'm just going to put it together as is. Anywho, that's it. I think we're ready to start putting this engine back together. I've got to clean off all of this old Durco, the silicone stuff from this case bottom. So I guess I'll get after that. The lower half of the crankcase is cleaned up, ready for assembly. Now we need to move on to the piston and cylinder and crankshaft assembly. So piston rings, let's put those on. That little pin is right there. There's also the gap of the ring that will fit into it, and it's obvious when you look at the end of the ring, it's scalloped a bit so that it will catch in that pin. So make sure you've got it with that scalloped portion facing up. I'm just going to do this with my bare hands. There is a tool for this that you clamp onto it and spread them apart, but these are small enough, light enough weight. If you're really careful, you can just spread them apart enough with your fingers and drop it into place. So we know we've got it in the right spot when you squeeze it together and the pin lines up with the notches in the ends of the rings. Let's get the other one on. Okay, second ring is in place. Now we can put the bearing into the end of the connecting rod. You can get that in the piston and lined up properly, but what we need to pay attention to is the orientation of the crankshaft. So the tapered side, that's the flywheel side. The other side is the clutch side. So if I set the other housing right here over the top of that, we'll zoom out a bit. This is the exhaust side right here, right? So the clutch is over here on my left. The clutch is on my left. So this is in the proper orientation for this piston to go like this with the arrow pointing towards the exhaust. The bearing is in there. I've got a wrist pin here. I'm going to put a little bit of pre-lube into that bearing, and this one down here, in fact, it's just red Marvel mystery oil. Really simple stuff, just to give it a little bit of lubrication when it first starts up. So we'll put this in place. We're going to push the wrist pin through. It might take a little moving around, looking at it from the side till there it goes all the way through. Now before I push it completely through, I need to put one of these circlips in, because that's what's going to hold the wrist pin in place on both sides. Okay, let's drop one of these in there. I'm going to push the wrist pin in just a little bit more until it's almost lined up with the groove. I'm going to start by putting that end in first, and then holding on to the whole thing. Take a pair of needle nose pliers. And what I'm going to do is just kind of twist and push to get it down in there, just like that. And just push it in with a screwdriver. When it's in the right spot, you'll know it makes a definitive click. And then I always do this, just rotate it in the groove. Make sure it's in that groove really solid, because if that thing comes out, that can mess up your brand new engine really quickly. So let's go to the other side. Push that wrist pin so I can put this right in the pliers, and then get it started on the one end. Give it a little twist and push. Push it down with the screwdriver. And there it goes. It is in place. Give it a little twist. Make sure it's going to stay right where it is. Yes, it is. Alright. So, wrist pin, piston, crankshaft. Now we have crankshaft seals, another little drop of oil each side where the seals are going to go. There's a side to the seal that has a groove and a little spring in it. that's what keeps tension on it. That's the side that goes in. So if you just give it a little push like that, good. Same thing on this side. Getting it past that edge is a little tricky. If you come at an angle, it works best. And there's another groove back here, also going to be a bit tricky. I'm having a little trouble getting past that one. There we go. Okay, let's check the seal. It looks good. There's a clip that went on there. It's right here. It's a C-clip. That's going to push back in place. You can push it on with your fingers pretty easily. Okay, so we're ready to take this whole assembly and drop it into here. But what I first need to do is clean up the surface of these a little bit, the seals, because a little bit of that Durco HT is going to go on there. So let's do that first. A little bit of naphtha on a rag. Good job. It evaporates quick enough, doesn't leave a residue behind. I'm also going to wipe down the gasket surfaces here, the bearing surfaces, the seal surfaces. Get everything nice and clean, dust free. Okay, the big picture now. This is the head and cylinder assembly. It's going to drop in here. We're going to have the crankshaft and piston loaded in here ahead of time. That is the intake side. We want it oriented like this, exhaust towards me. Okay, so that being the case, there's my arrow, clutch side, flywheel side. We're going to insert this into the cylinder. So I'm going to invert everything over just like this. And we'll install it like that. First, I'm going to put some red Marble Mystery Oil on the grooves and on the piston rings. I've done this on every engine I've ever built, and it's a really good way to get some lube, the proper lube, on those rings. It just helps them seat into the cylinder in that first like 2 minutes of running. So I've got a little on there. I'm going to get some in the cylinder as well. Just going to kind of go around the edge here and then just smear it a bit with my fingers. Okay, so there's the arrow pointing toward me. That's the exhaust port. I'm going to just gently push this in. There is a taper to this thing. So make sure that the ring end gaps are lined up with the little pins, and then slowly push it down into the cylinder. Give it a little wiggle. Boom, there it goes. It dropped right in. I'm going to get just a little thin film of that Durco on the sealing surfaces here for the seals. So I'm going to lay this down, get this opened up, and do that next. You just want a little bit. In fact, I'm going to wipe some of that back. Okay, we got the Durco little applicator cap on here. Squeeze till a little comes out. I'm going to put a little bead right in that groove all the way around. Okay, nice little bead all the way around. Exhaust side, boom, boom. Got to go in at a bit of an angle. And then slowly drop it down. Make sure we're getting the bearing seated right, and there we go. Longest one goes there, and the rest all around. Let's go ahead and run them in just barely snug. Okay, I'm going about 12 foot-pounds, 144 inch-pounds. It feels about right. Alright, well that's all torqued. Let's make sure everything still turns. Yes, indeed. So we're not going to do any kind of quick assembly on this. I want to let it sit a day for that stuff to really cure up. Then we're going to come back and finish putting this back together and fire it up. Bar and chain time, because without that it's just a cool engine. Alright, make sure the teeth are facing forward on the top, coming toward the saw. They are cutting. This is how I put them on. Just drop it onto the bar first. Get it in the groove. Wear some rubber gloves. Wear some kind of gloves. These things will cut you so quick. Get our side cover ready to go here. We're just going to hang on to it with the chain tensioned up. Drop it on there. Get it into the teeth on the sprocket. Make sure they're all in there, not doubled up or weird positions. Where it is right now, it's got enough tension on it. That's okay. If it didn't have any, I would turn that screw a little till I took out some of the slack, and then I would drop the side cover on. Hold that down, a little bit of pressure. Put the bar nuts on, and just spin them down far enough where they just hold that cover and the blade in place. Alright, set it on its bottom, and I'm going to take my scrunch, take these to where they just stop turning, and then back off just a little, and then take a look at the chain. Too tight, so turn it counterclockwise. You can see the bar start to fall there a little bit. Chain brake is off, so if I push forward, you see the saw comes up a little in the back. Well, that's what I want to do, is do that and check the drop in the chain. And right in that position, I'm just going to turn it a little bit more tension till I just see the drop go away, and then give these a nice little snug and see where things are at. Well, that's probably an okay place to start. Another way you can do these is just put a screwdriver in there, and you're not going to hurt your hands. You can do it with the scrunch as well. But it's a little tight, but it's a brand new chain. It's going to stretch a bit. When it gets hot, it's going to get looser. So I'm going to tighten these right where they are. I am an advocate of give them a pretty good amount of torque there. Make sure they stay tight. Just a little bit, they could vibrate loose. So let's put some fuel and so we're going to give it a few pulls, get it started. I'm just going to let it sit and idle for a couple of minutes before I do anything. Then maybe give it some revs, make sure that the oil is getting on the bar and that the function of the oil pump is all good. Because that doesn't spin until you rev it up and the chain is spinning, and then the oil pump runs when the chain spins, not otherwise. Okay, let's give it a full choke. See if we can get it to hit a lick, as they say. Let's see how it does on an oak log. God, that is a pretty hunk of wood. Well, so far so good. It cuts well. I'm impressed. We'll see what happens over time. I'll kind of keep track of roughly how many hours I put on this. Maybe we'll come back and revisit this in a future video. Heck, a week DIY projects. Woohoo! That was a fun project. Kind of took me back to the CB750 days, getting into some engines and pistons and cylinders and explaining things and all that. So I hope you enjoyed it. As I said earlier, maybe in a few months we'll come back and revisit this, early summer, something like that. See how it's doing, check out what the compression is, how well it's still cutting, what kind of wear there's going on in the piston and cylinder. Sort of a long-term review, I guess, for an Amazon $60 replacement engine. Not so bad. Alright, well thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get the notifications when the new videos pop up. And until next time.